Hello, everyone. On this edition of the Texans Battleground podcast, we had the opportunity to interview Justin Berry, a GOP candidate running for State House District 47 in a very crowded field. Had the opportunity to speak with him about his background, what's led him to be a police officer here in Austin, the policies that he believes in and he wants to advocate for should he have the opportunity to win and represent the district, as well as some of his favorite Christmas traditions, Christmas songs, talked a little bit of Star Wars. Really fun interview. We hope you guys tune in and enjoy it. And otherwise, head to thetexan.news and subscribe. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Texans podcast. My name is Drew White, senior editor here at the Texan. And once again, we have a special battleground edition of our podcast, focusing on House District 47. And joining us today is Justin Berry. He's a candidate in the Republican primary for House District 47. Justin, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for dropping by.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be good. Should be a good conversation. It's a really healthy field. We were just talking about this before the podcast of folks that are running. Used to be kind of a traditional Republican district. Vikki Goodwin flipped it in 2018 in the what they call the Beto wave. And you guys are all getting ready to battle it out to see who's going to be the nominee going forward in the spring. And just we're thrilled to have you here. So
well, I'm thrilled to be here. And our race is an exciting race. I mean, District 47 is being looked at as one of the top 5 seats that has a strong viability of being flipped back.
Yep.
And in the caliber of candidates that are in there. I mean, the Travis County GOP candidate pool is incredible. I mean, every one of my primary opponents are good people. And that's one thing I'm very glad is that. I hear all the time is, man, y'all's race. There's 5 of y'all. There's no drama. There's no issues. And I'm just like, it's because we're running off of merit. You know, we want to present ourselves for the kind of people that our voters can be proud of. They're proud of sitting in there, that are going to avoid the drama and focus more on the issues at hand. We each bring our own unique niche issues. We have an R next to our name for a reason. So we're going to stand beside those hardline issues. But then there's also those other things that separate us. So for me, being a police officer for 13 years now, I'm your public safety candidate. And so if you feel that public safety issues right now, things like the homelessness issue around the Austin area is a problem, or things dealing with school safety and school shootings and school violence, if those are issues and concerns to you, I'm your guy. I mean, coming from a police background really helps me provide a unique perspective into that.
Yeah, I think most people probably be like, wow, politics without the drama. That's a weird thing in today's.
It is, right?
But let's talk a little bit about your background. You mentioned, you were a police officer for what, 12, 13 years? Is that right?
I still am a police officer.
That's right. Yeah. So you're still, on the force here in Austin, and you were born here in Austin. So you're a native.
Born at Seton. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about, just, I guess your childhood, what it was like growing up here. Maybe how the city's changed a little bit, over the years. I'd just be curious to get your take.
So I was born here in the Austin area, Seton. My father was a police officer here in Austin as well. His uncles are the first and third connect. So I'm like the 4th generation on my dad's side being here. Yeah, my dad is a former Marine. Okay. Fought during Vietnam during the Tet Offensive.
Oh, wow.
But their relationship, my mom and my dad's relationship didn't work out. So I grew up with my mom, who raised me as a single mother, and we ended up moving around. We moved to Giddings for a smidge, and then Brenham, which was always cool when you're in elementary school going to Brenham, because every field trip in Brenham you always go to Bluebell.
Oh,
so
man.
it was pretty cool times.
Jackpot, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
And then we settled down in College Station. So I mean, most of my upbringing was in College Station, Texas.
Got it.
I graduated from A&M Consolidated High School in 2003. Go Tigers. And then I wasn't really sure what I wanted to really do, but my school was very interesting. So my school resource officers were actual teachers. So they were full-time police officers. They wore a police uniform every single day. Yeah. But they taught classes like courts and criminal procedures, police and society, civil rights, things that aren't really being taught anymore. Yeah. And so we got a unique perspective into, kind of the policing world, which really piqued my interest. I initially thought about I loved architecture. I still do. I admire it so much. Looking at buildings and skyscrapers, bridges, the way I'm still fascinated by it. But I really struggled with high school physics.
Yeah.
And I was like, I probably shouldn't be designing people's buildings.
Wasn't my strong suit.
So not my strong suit. So, but policing, I really enjoyed it. And so I got involved in some law enforcement groups like Explorer programs and things like that. And I knew from when I was about 15 on that I wanted to be a police officer.
That's really cool. So would you say that those resource officers played as much a role as maybe like your family history in terms of going down that path, or did one play a bigger role? Or?
So much so. Kiki Johnson and Daryl Lukey, those were the two College Station PD police officers. They're now retired. And actually one of them is now the vice principal of that high school I went to. Yeah. We still stay in touch to this very day.
That's awesome.
They call me up to go speak to the students sometimes. We still stay in touch, which is something that's really cool. I don't know. College Station was a great place to go to school because our teachers there, they spent more time, and this is where I get a lot of my educational platform issues on, is the teachers I remember the most were the ones that taught me to succeed in life, not to necessarily pass a test or, fight for the highest GPA. It was to make you a good person and set you up for success in life, no matter where you wanted to go. If you want to go in the military, if you want to go to a trade school, if you want to go to college, where we wanted you to come out of this school ready to succeed and thrive. Yeah. And is that philosophy that really is still resonated with me. And I still talk to a lot of my teachers to this day from the high school. Yeah. They're still mentors to me to this very day. And I'm 34 years old now and I still talk to them. Yeah. So College Station was a really good place to grow up. You don't ever realize it when you're there. It's not until you get older and you start having that nostalgia and you're like, oh yeah. But yeah, they had a prime impact, especially those two officers. They really put me on this pathway into public service, and been a public servant now for 13 years. Yeah, it's funny, College Station. People here in Austin are benefiting from, your time in College Station, which is pretty funny. From a Longhorn Aggie sort of perspective, if you want to look at it that way. When did you move back to Austin? And you're in the police force. When did that take place? In your early 20s? When did that happen? Oh, that's a fun story. So I went to college at Sam Houston State University. Okay. Oh, of course, the Sam Houston State University.
That's right.
I just love that when they do that.
That's right.
So I went to Sam Houston State University. I graduated in 2007. And I remember I was at a graduation party in College Station with my family. My grandmother was in town. We were doing that. I get a call from one of the academy cadets. So I got accepted to, let me back up. So initially I applied to two places. I applied to the United States Secret Service and to Austin Police Department. Okay. Two long shots. I was like, I'm not going to get hired by any of them. I was a bartender at the time in college, really loved it. I loved meeting with people. It's just fun. So I was like, I'm going to go bartend on a cruise ship and travel the world. I was like, go sightsee, save some money. Yeah. All your bills are paid for, pay down some college debt. And then I got the job acceptance letters from both. And I was like, well, I guess my pathway is going differently. And I ended up taking the offer at Austin PD. And it put me on a pathway in my life that I don't have any regrets of it. Yeah. And so I'm sitting there, I'm in College Station, just graduated from college. I'm supposed to be packing up and moving to Austin because I'm supposed to start the academy soon. And I get a phone call, you need to be here tomorrow to pick up all your stuff for the day one of the police academy. If you can't be here, you have to show up in a suit and tie. You don't want to show up day one in a suit and tie. Yeah. So I literally dropped everything, drove back to Huntsville, got a U-Haul, packed my entire apartment up, drove all the way into Austin, went to my dad's house, stayed with him, and then we were there. And so I came here in 2007, and it was the summer. It was May of 2007. 2 weeks after I graduated college, I was in the police academy. Wow. Yeah.
That's crazy. And haven't looked back since.
Haven't looked back since, man. Yeah. It's policing it's a very interesting world. It's like a world that once you become an officer, your entire perspective of that world changes. And it comes from because you see usually the worst of humanity, but you also get to see the best of humanity as well. And it really helps bring about a perspective to where in your own personal life, you get to reflect on how you grew up, things you have, the people that you're around. It really helps create a balance in your life. And it's stressful. I mean, we have people that the stress gets to them and they make bad decisions and, they go on and do dumb things that make the rest of us look bad. Yep. But the vast majority of us, we love this. When they say it's a calling, it is literally a calling. And it's something that I've been called for it. And I've enjoyed every moment of it.
Yeah.
For the most part. There's some parts I'm like, but I've
Well, I think
enjoyed it.
everybody,
Yeah.
no matter what you do in life, that's probably true. That's really cool. Yeah, I'd be curious. I know we're going to kind of dovetail into some of the politics here in the campaign, but before we get to that, I'm just curious, 2007, you've been in the police force since then. Do you think, and obviously it's only from maybe an Austin perspective being here, but do you think the public perception of police officers has changed since you first started, for the better, for the worse? And what are your views on that? Because it seems to me personally that it has.
It most certainly has. I started out, I was assigned to Southeast Austin. I was around the Riverside area. And, over there, it was very busy. And I volunteered. I wanted to go to the busy areas. I wanted to get the experience. I wanted to, maybe it's that being young and ambitious. You want to get out there and just, get into it. But yeah, I fundamentally believe that the times have changed, especially after Ferguson. Ferguson really was a disruptor for policing in America in modern day. 9/11 was a big disruptor for policing. It really transitioned us into a post-terrorism kind of world of policing. And then Ferguson happens. And then Ferguson really was a massive disruptor in the way policing was done, some for the better and some for the worse. I think a lot of emotional reactions came out because of it. And a lot of policies were pushed that weren't really thought out. And then some good policies came out of it as well. And it's something that we're now finding ourselves in this transitional time again, where I think once Ferguson happened, the attitude, the public perception towards policing really deteriorated drastically and sharply. Which then had a direct impact on officer morale, recruiting, hiring, and then maintaining those standards that was once there. Has also been a struggle because your applicant pool has dwindled. So it's brought a lot of challenges to the policing profession that is unfortunate, because you see here in Austin what takes place when you get policies like the Freedom City policy that came out by Greg Kassar that's really handcuffed an officer's ability to utilize that discretion. And then you couple it with the homelessness. And the homelessness in Austin really shows you what happens when you take away that discretion. Because now you're left with this, where officers can't go in there and I've dealt this guy 20 times. Like, he's not getting the hint. I need to be able to arrest him. Or I pull over a mom who has 3 kids in the back that are in car seats. Well, I'm utilizing my discretion. I can tell she doesn't need a ticket, but rather let me help her acquire a car seat. Because in Austin, we have enough resources. I can find that mom a car seat. Those kinds of things. And that's the power and the beauty of discretion. And I tell officers all the time, don't abuse it. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And I always remind people that, both on the opposition side as well as our own side. Just because you can do something doesn't always mean you should. Because there is consequences that you cannot foresee that will come out of this that will have dire effects on people's day-to-day lives.
Man.
But to follow up lastly is, I think we are transitioning to a time now where I think people are realizing the need for public safety. And, before, once when I used to go out to eat, we always got mean looks at us. We always got, cussed out or whatever it was. And now I get people that come up to me all the time and thank me or thank my fellow officers, or sometimes you go to check out and pay out for a tab and we'll get told by the waiter or waitress, hey, your meal's been paid for already. And you're like, wow. So I think there is a change that's taking place. I mean, we just had another officer shot in the face today. I mean, that's our 6th or 7th officer this week that's been killed in the line of duty. So we're seeing the violence towards the officers still very strong and present. But I think that silent majority, the ones that maybe never really said much or did much, I think they're starting to come out a little bit more, because I think they're seeing what the men and women of the law enforcement profession are going through. And I think they're starting to show up. And I can't put into words how appreciative it is to see a member of the community that come up, because you're very well having a rough day and you get something like that happens, it can literally flip your day around. Well,
I think more and more people probably need to hear that kind of stuff too. We wrote on when the 2 officers were killed this past week in Houston, and how awful that was. And won't necessarily get into that, but we wrote the story on that, and the police chief, and how politics sort of infuses all these things these days. And I want to touch on that, switching to the campaign. And you mentioned the homelessness issue. That's obviously, we've covered that extensively, as you know. What are your views of kind of where we're at now in Austin, in the current state of the homelessness, the camping ordinance? They've rolled back a little bit of it. The governor stepped in, obviously, to try to deal with sort of the encampments under all the overpasses here in Austin. What are your views on where we're at and just overall the problem of homelessness in Austin itself?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of stuff taking place with the homelessness. And I think I wrote a big article on this on my Facebook page. And I believe the city's approach to it is flawed. I think it's well-meaning. I think some of our city council members have well-meaning or good intentions.
Sure.
But by painting that issue with such a broad stroke, I think you set it up for failure. Because I used to do undercover work around this area as a homeless person and things like that. And one of the things that I can tell you from that perspective is it's not a broad stroke issue. You have some people that are truly, truly homeless. They just lost their house. A spouse may have died. They had to pay for all the funeral expenses. They didn't have life insurance, and they are now on the streets.
Wow.
Those people need a certain way to get back into housing and back into employment. Then you have those, or even the mom or the grandmother that maybe been a stay-at-home mom her entire life. Her husband passed away, and now she has no work experience, and now she's in her late 50s or 60s trying to get a job with no work experience. You're not going to get hired.
Yeah.
We need pathways for someone like that. Then you have people that are truly mentally incompetent. I mean, they cannot mentally take care, provide for themselves.
Yeah.
When we shut down the state schools in the 90s, we kicked them all out to the streets. We made it a policing problem. I think that's a huge failure. I'm a big advocate in refunding the state school systems again and allowing those guardians of those who are not mentally competent to have the option of going into a state school again.
Yeah.
I know there's some court rulings on it that said you can't force people in there. And I don't think you should force them in there, but whoever their legal guardians are should have that choice to put them in there. Because I can't tell you how heartbreaking it is to see someone that is truly mentally ill with a black eye, or they're just acting a little different, but because a lot of them are not communicative, they can't communicate with you.
Yeah.
They don't file the crimes against themselves. But you hear from the street or from other homeless people that, that person was robbed by so-and-so the other day, or that person over there was raped the other day, or that person over there has been getting extorted or being used to help out with the drug trade. So that's unfortunate. A lot of times they're victimized regularly, and I don't think it's very humane to keep them on the streets when we need to look at refunding a state school system. I think that's the more humane. Is it going to be expensive? Yeah, it's going to be expensive. Is it also going to provide more jobs? Yeah, especially in the healthcare industry. We're going to look at hiring some more nurses, more mental health care providers, some more physicians. I mean, it's going to open up some pathways for more jobs too, though. So I think it's the more humanitarian way. And then you have those that are addicted to drugs and alcohol. They're going to require their own solutions, Yeah. And if you've ever had someone in your life that's suffered from an addiction, it's heartbreaking. And they usually don't get it right the first time.
Yeah.
Or the second time. It's that constant persistence. They finally reach that moment where they're just done.
Yeah.
They're just done. They're wore out. They're tired. And they finally want that change. It's that moment. And that takes time.
Yeah.
And they need their own route. And then you have those that just don't want to adult. Yeah. They don't want to adult. They don't want any responsibilities.
Yep.
And for those people, they need to abide by the social norms, which are also known as laws.
Right.
And if they don't, then I'm sorry, you're going to be held accountable. You're going to get arrested or get a ticket.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be comfortable for you.
Yeah.
So I think that's my view on the homelessness situation is it's going to take these unique avenues because it's not a broad stroke issue.
Yeah. So it's not just like a housing issue when folks say that it's more than that. It's more complicated. It's got a lot of different factors in it than just a sort of a silver bullet. Like, well, it's, people are on the streets because we don't have enough homes or something like that. Like,
it's funny you mentioned that because I talked to my fiance's brother-in-law is from South Africa.
Okay.
And we were actually talking about this homelessness issue. And he's like, don't do it. Like, don't do the housing model. I was like, why? And he's like, we tried that out here in Pretoria. And now we have this. It was actually featured in a movie, Chappie. So it's like this. So if you ever watched that movie, Chappie, it's this tall cylinder building in the background. And he's like, that actually was a housing model for the homeless, and it failed. And these drug lords took over, and now it's this drug lord stronghold.
Oh my
that
Lord!
The police can't get into, and it's just full of crime. And now you can't get into that building. It's ran by drug lords.
Yeah.
Granted, South Africa has issues very different than we do.
Sure.
But it's not far off. I mean, when you start looking at these things, I don't think it's housing's an issue, yes, but housing without employment doesn't work, or housing without a plan doesn't work.
Yeah.
You need, now if it's temporary housing, I'm open to temporary housing because you should be at the point where you're motivated to improve your life.
Yep.
You're taking job skills. You're working on your resume. You're working with some of these different organizations on getting business attire to go do interviews. You're getting coaching and training. Those are the things you need in place for a housing model to work.
Yeah.
City has never once talked about the back end work that's going to take. It's just housing. Well, what are your other plans and procedures to get them out of that so you have room for the next person that needs that housing?
Yeah.
You know, that they seem to go towards more of a model where it's just get everybody a house.
Yeah.
To what end?
Yeah.
I mean, don't you want to help them be set up for success in life? Because that's my philosophy is how do we set people up for success in life?
Yeah.
Enabling doesn't help people succeed.
Yeah. So going into this race, you're one of 5 Republican candidates for this particular House seat. And you mentioned, you know, it's a strong field. We've had several of the other candidates on the Texan. What do you believe, what are going to be the key issues that you think are going to play into this particular race? You know, a lot of folks, you know, you look at Vikki Goodwin, she succeeded, right, in flipping this district from Republican to Democrat. You know, ran a pretty good campaign, I think it's fair to say, in 2018 in this district. What do you think's really on the minds of folks in this area? And what are going to be sort of your policy priorities that you're wanting to run on?
I'm doing a lot of block walking. So I'm talking to a lot of people from all across the district. And, you know, I think one of the things I hear a lot is people love my philosophy on statesmanship. That is something that I believe strongly in, and I think it's something that separates myself maybe from my other candidates. I take this campaign approach as how do I serve in the best interest for people's day-to-day issues, such as how do we improve the traffic nightmare that is 620, 2222, 71, all across Travis County. How do I improve that? That impacts your day-to-day life. You know, so one of my solutions is we need more east-west roadways. If you look on a map of Travis County, there is no east-west roadways. 183 does a weird thing. It doesn't know if it's north or south or east or west. But we need some east-west roadways.
Yeah.
And then I think people are also tired of the divisiveness of the country. People are fed up. I mean, the average person is fed up with, I'm fed up with the divisiveness of this country. And that's why I focus more on a statesmanship philosophy, because as a statesman, you're there to get things done. I believe politicians, which is the other side of it, they pander to get votes. They mislead you. They'll say, oh, it's political speech. It's protected. But it's not actually there to achieve anything other than to achieve power for themselves. Yeah. And being a public servant for 13 years, I've had power. I've probably got some of the greatest power you can have in government and being a police officer. Right. You have the right to take away someone's freedom. You know, not saying that you abuse it, but it is a power. It's there. Yeah. So I've been doing this for 13 years now without any issues. I've got numerous accommodations, awards, medals, things like that. My integrity's been tested time and time again. So it's something I'm not afraid of. You know, being asked tough questions, being accountable. Those are all philosophies and values that I wish politicians would embrace. Yeah, because they all love to say they're public servants, but they don't want to take on the accountability side of it. They don't want to take on the transparency side of it. They don't want to take on the point of answering hard questions. They deflect or repeat sound bites over and over and over again. So I think for me, my strength in this race is being genuine, just being upfront with people. And they either like me and they see me as their candidate or not. But I don't believe that being dishonest to them in this process is something that I can look at myself in the mirror every day. Yeah. So I think the big issues out in our district is property taxes for sure. Yeah. We have a strong retirement community out there. And as you plan for your retirement, you can count on not getting a COLA or a cost of living adjustment. Right. And so how do you plan to keep your house when year over year, your taxes keep going up and you're on a fixed income? Yep. Like, what do you do? Yeah. It's a challenge. And then, so I'm a big advocate for a consumption-based model. So let's reasonably look at our sales tax, adjust it as we need to. But the beauty with that is you tax everybody. Yeah. So all the people out there that are concerned about our illegal immigrants, they're getting taxed for the products they consume. Your drug dealer in the corner, he's getting taxed for things. Right. So I think it provides tax. Everyone has to pay taxes at that point. And for the counter arguments, I know I heard it last session. They were talking about, well, it's disadvantage. It's a disadvantage to the poor. Or I'm like, how? Austin wants to take a look at how do we reduce the regentrification in East Austin.
Yep.
How did they do it? Well, they taxed them out. That's how they did it.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
They taxed them out of their house. So you want to reduce it, don't have a property tax model.
Yep.
Because then you get to keep your house. Now you get to work off of a budget. You get to choose where you want to spend your money on.
Yeah.
And if you're so poor that you can't afford the goods you buy, then you're probably already on welfare anyways, and you're not getting taxed on that.
Yeah.
So that speaking point doesn't really apply. And I really wish more of our colleagues would push back on that, because it's a failed argument. It's a fallacy.
Yeah, and it's been around forever too. I mean, that's the argument. When I was working in D.C., in Capitol Hill, when people talk about a consumption tax, whatever that looks like, the fair tax or a flat tax, it was always, well, this is going to disproportionately hit lower income populations. But
it's a fallacy.
We have 80 means tested federal welfare programs, not even counting state.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting though about slowly wanting to kind of shift to that model here in Texas. Would that be something that you would push if you were to make it through the primary and win? That would be sort of a priority for you in the legislature.
For sure.
would be to okay.
And I say that because I believe that your first priority in a session should be balance your budget and what are our needs, meet our needs, and whatever's left over, we can now debate our wants.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. And yet when I watch it, they're always debating the wants.
That's right.
They're always making the wants. And I'm like, where's the needs? We're not focusing on the needs. We're focusing on the wants.
That's right.
And it's frustrating to watch that. And I'm like, in my household, we focus on the needs.
Yep.
And then what's left, we plan for the wants.
Yep.
And I think that same philosophy needs to be applied at the state level is let's focus on our needs.
Yep.
And we do a fairly good job of that. But yet it seems like more and more of the wants kind of creep on in there or get attached on or amended. And instead of no, let's focus on our needs. What are our needs? What is the essential role of government? It's to do what? Promote the general welfare, not the niche welfare. People misunderstand that, and provide for the common defense.
Yeah.
So that's your public safety. It's your roadways.
Yep.
That is your transportation. That is your general
function
welfare
of government
and your public safety is component of it. So those are your needs, literally outlined in the preamble. Focus on that, and then we can start debating over all the little pet projects that each one person wants.
So looking back at the session, I assume you followed a lot of what happened this past legislative session. The property tax bill the reform that went through was obviously celebrated as a really big deal, and putting a cap on the rate of growth. What is your view of, I guess, that particular bill in terms of starting to solve the problem, and maybe just your overall take on the past session? Do you feel favorably disposed towards it? Do you think it didn't go far enough? Things should have been done that weren't? What's your general view of what happened this past year?
So for me on the property tax thing, I was conflicted with it. I think I'm glad to see we fought for stuff, and it was a fight. I'm glad to see that the Republican Party fought to put a vote trigger in place for property taxes and put it back in the power of the people. The problem, my concern is, who do we then get sit on these appraisal boards that can artificially inflate your property taxes as a back door? So I wish we had built in some measures of protection on the back end of it. And again, it may have just been an innocent oversight, hoping that people would be moral and ethical, and but unfortunately, we don't really see that taking place too much in politics right now.
Right.
And so that, again, another reason why a consumption model's, in my opinion, a healthier system, because it's a more fair system, it's a more accountable system. But I think the session overall, I don't think was too terribly bad. We didn't battle over bathroom issues, and we didn't battle over social. There was a couple of social issues out there, but I think for the most part, the biggest battle was SB 2. Yeah, and it's something that I'm really glad to see that was fought and won as well. People can get upset about, well, it felt like it was too moderate or too this or that. But again, I think governance should focus on people's day-to-day issues and what's in the best interest for the majority. Yeah. And I think this is my philosophy on it. And actually, I told my family this is, if I end up winning this thing, I want a sign that says in front of my desk, it says, it's about them, not you. Because it's very easy to make things about you rather than your people. And, for me, my counter to that is, when you're questioned on an answer, you can pull up all your constituents that called you and all the stakeholders you met with and how they wanted. And so I am a glorified button pusher. I push the button because of this list of people here, my constituents and stakeholders. And it's very easy to answer, especially for those controversial subjects, because it's not about you. Yeah. When I see politicians stumble over their words and they're like, well, I did this or I did that, it sounds a whole lot like it's about you. Yeah. Rather than about the people you're there to represent. And we see that in Austin all the time. In the city council here, I'll see a tweet every now and again. It's like they see a room full of supporters of their issue saying, oh, this is what democracy looks like. And yet then I see a room full of non-supporters. Well, and that's considered hate speech, apparently. Yeah. It's not a room full of democracy. Yeah. So I don't know. I think the session went well overall. I think there's always some room for improvement, but I think the governor did an incredible job. He really focused on stuff. I was really sad to see one of Joe Moody's, a few of his bills kept coming up with regards to public safety. It came 8 times. I was a part of defeating that process. It had to do with officer discretion. Okay. And jailable offenses for basic Class C misdemeanors, and ties back to what we were advocating for is look at Austin. Yeah. Look at what happens when you take away that officer's discretion. The poor business owner in the storefront, I don't think the business community realized how much they needed the police community until now here in Austin. Yeah. Because they have all these people that are defecating in their storefronts. Yep. Their customers don't feel safe going into the storefronts, and which means if they can't feel safe, people aren't coming in, they have to shut down. Well, when they shut down, it trickles up to the landlord. If you can't keep a building full of tenants, they shut down or they sell out, and then it gets full of vagrancies. And so it does have a direct impact on economy. And I tell a lot of our people in the real estate community, public safety is your invisible infrastructure. It's a part of the foundation that keeps for a thriving storefront, that keeps for people to feel safe and welcome into your store. But it's the unseen. You don't see it until it's taken away. As in this case now, especially with some of the bills that Joe Moody was pushing, it really took away or they try to take away that officer discretion. Yeah. And I think Austin's realizing firsthand, because in Austin we have a freedom city policy, which is basically a sanctuary policy that goes above and beyond sanctuary policies that then limits an officer's ability to arrest for a Class C misdemeanor. So it does take away that officer discretion. Yeah. They succeeded in Austin, and now they're trying to apply it at the state level. Yeah. And you see the negative side of it here in the Austin level is they're having adverse consequences here. Yeah. Got it. Brad Johnson, our reporter who's been covering the homelessness issue and just the Austin City Council's actions on this. I mean, he ran around the city and he wrote a great story interviewing a lot of these business owners on that stuff and their concerns, whether it was safety or, they were going to change their store hours because of the new policy. And, I think it's interesting bringing up sort of the economic factor of that isn't always, that was a really interesting statement, the sort of invisible infrastructure that law enforcement and public safety plays into that, I think is a truism that a lot of folks probably don't think about very often. And that's the other part of the problem we have that a lot of the public doesn't know about is in 2017, Councilmember Jimmy Flanagan of Austin, he passed a resolution with the support of Greg Casar that actually handicapped the municipal court judges. And a lot of people don't realize this. And basically, they ordered the judges to write essays on how they'll give preferential treatment to the homeless and indigent communities of Austin. I kid you not. Wow. And so one of the judges was a judge that did in ethics. And he told city council, hey, this is unethical. You can't do this. It's a violation of our judicial canon of ethics. They fired him. They fired him and 4 of the judges that pushed back on it. And if you read that resolution, it says they are there to promote an equitable justice system. That should be a key word for equitable justice system. Think about that. Nowhere in there is equitable, equal. Yeah. And every time I hear that word equitable, it drives me crazy because I'm an advocate for equality. Yeah. I'm a big advocate for equality. I believe you should have an equal opportunity to be the best person you can be, equal opportunity to fair justice, all that, not an equitable one. So that's part of the other issue is everyone wants to talk about we need the police to enforce the laws and we need enforcement of the laws. People are confusing what law enforcement does, which is enforce the laws, with what the judicial side is supposed to do. Their role is to uphold the law.
Yeah.
And so I always tell people that is when you have our judges, our municipal court judges in this town that have been ordered not to issue warrants, that have been ordered to give you PR bonds out to everybody, that do these things, it creates an environment because they're not upholding the law.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that coupled with Greg Casar's stuff coming in on the police side for the depolicing and decriminalization movement, couple them together. Now you have a group all by themselves. So you lost your legislative arm, you lost your judicial arm. Now you're left with your executive arm on an island alone. It's very hard to have effective policing that the community demands and expects.
Yeah.
When your legislators have literally removed the judicial wing and they're going their way.
Man, that's interesting. And thinking about this too, this would be malpractice if I didn't ask you this. So I'm going to ask you this question. There's been, since the session, there's been seemingly one dramatic incident after another, right?
Yes.
We had the secret recording issue that came out with the speaker. You've had some legislators make comments and they've decided not to run. We've also had one who has admitted that he had possession of cocaine.
I remember that one.
And Representative Pancho Navarez, he sits on the committee in the Texas House overseeing the Department of Public Safety.
Yes.
Being a law enforcement guy, and knowing the importance of this, do you think he should step down?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I don't know. I got to commend him. At least he turned himself in.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, he had an envelope of his own name on him. He's got debt to rights. I mean, he had really no choice. But at least I'm glad he did the right thing. Went in peacefully, surrendered peacefully, didn't cause the whole team to go search for him. So I got to commend him for that. But I don't know how you can then sit there, be objective, and listen to all the stakeholders and constituents that come in and speak before that panel, and not have a bias. And not have a. And by a bias, I mean a bias of significant weight. I mean, everyone they always tell you, everyone has a bias, but I mean a bias that directly impacts your view. In that, and he sits in a very powerful seat. He sits in a seat that impacts everyone's safety in the state of Texas. And so I don't believe that person should hold that seat. Whether they want to keep running for office or not, that's between he and his
he said he's not going to
constituents.
run again, but he's still basically his announcement was, I'm not going to seek re-election, but he's still overseeing this committee for another year and a half or so.
And that's something where I don't think I think that person needs to focus more on going to rehab, and I think he needs to focus on improving his personal life right now. He has more important things in his personal life to focus on, and he needs to just let someone else come into that seat, and so they can give that seat the care and focus it rightfully and justly deserves. And I wish him well in his recovery. I like I said, if you've known anyone that's been through drug addiction or alcohol addiction, it's very tough to watch them because you see how bad it messes up your life, and he's seen the results of it himself. And so I wish him well, and I hope he goes in and gets the treatment he needs. But yeah, he needs to vacate that seat and spend that time focusing on himself and improving his own life.
Looking at the race, just the general politics of this, do you think 2020 in this seat is going to look a lot different than the midterm election for this district? And do you think the president's reelect, does that help Republicans running for the seat? Does it hurt Republicans? Does it not matter at all really for state house district? What are your views on that?
Yeah, I think well, our district already has a high voter turnout already. I mean, they come out. We have a very politically engaged district, so they show up. So I don't think it's necessarily so much that the president's going to have an influence on it. They're going to show up regardless of it. We have great voters in our district. But I do think it is going to have an impact overall. I mean, President Trump, love him or hate him, I think he has the ability to get people energized on both sides. On both sides.
I think that's fair.
He can energize both parties. To get out there. And so I think you are going to see a very strong voter turnout. I think the challenge is going to be, because this is the first time we don't have straight party ticket voting. How do we motivate people to work down that ballot and really help push the message that I am the best candidate for this role? Even if you may be on the other party, or maybe you're upset with your party, because in Austin, they always say Austin was a Democrat stronghold. My philosophy on that has changed. I believe Austin's become a socialist foothold. If you look at the policies, the people in positions of authority and power around here, the elected officials around here, they're all pushing socialist agendas not Democrat Party agendas.
Yeah.
So I don't think Austin's the Democrat stronghold it thinks it once was. I think, unfortunately, they allowed those extreme groups to come in there. Like a cancer, it took hold and it started to spread. And now you have very strong socialist candidates running for a lot of offices. One of them is running against Senator Cornyn.
Yeah.
So I think people need to wake up and realize what's in the best interest for me, my family, and vote down that ticket. And you'll see that in our group and over here in the Republican Party, we have a bunch of sound candidates, and I'm proud to be amongst them, to where I think we will do a good job. And I specifically think that I will do a great job, especially when it comes to public safety, improving our infrastructure for better traffic and transportation, and really focusing on those day-to-day issues. And so I think that's what people need to remember is what happens at the presidential level doesn't always necessarily impact your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Now, people may feel like it.
Yeah.
It's because they choose to let it.
Can you say that again? Because I say that all the time. It's so true. It's like we're so focused on everything in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
You know, it's become like this cultural thing. And our system was designed for Washington to be the least impactful in our lives, right? I mean, you should be, if the system were operating the way I think the founders envisioned, you know, a candidate running for the state house should definitely be more impactful in your day-to-day life, right, than somebody in a distant city on the East Coast.
At that federal level, they should be making sure we're not getting invaded by a foreign nation, making sure that we're having fair and strong trade practices that are taking place internationally with international trade. I think that's the great role of the federal government.
Yeah.
Your day-to-day issues, how your schools are operated and ran, how your highways are funded, the quality of the roadway structures we have here, all that stuff is done at the state level.
Yeah.
And that's so if you are upset with your day-to-day issues, that's at your state level. So if you're upset in your day-to-day life, you need to look at your state representative, your local representative, your county commissioners. That's who you need to look at.
Yeah.
Those are the people that have the impact of your day-to-day lives. If you're upset with the curriculum going on in your school system, that's not President Trump.
Yeah.
That's your school board.
Yep.
You need to look at who's running for your school board. Or you know what? Go run yourself.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I started running. I just got tired of waiting for someone else to step up and get in there and do what needs to be done. So got in the fight because I'm tired of the divisiveness. I'm tired of people thinking what's happening at the national level is what's going to impact here, because it's not.
Yeah. Makes sense. So this will be the last question I want to ask you on just the general campaign political. Then we'll do some fun stuff like we always do. If there was one issue, let's say, you know, this works, you win the primary, you're up there. Obviously, you're only guaranteed 2 years if you win. If there were one issue that you could see through to the finish line, and you could only pick one, what would that policy issue be for you that you would want to see enacted into law, or either maybe there's a law you don't like that you'd want to roll back? What would that be?
I'm torn.
I know there's a ton.
There's
it's
two
tough.
that I'm really passionate about.
Okay.
One is prison reform. I wish we had time to talk about that.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, I don't think it really resonates.
Ask everyone around here. I would love to talk about that.
Yeah. Then we'll talk about it then. That'll be on our fun topics.
Yeah.
I really want to see our property tax system change. I really want to see us switch that consumption model.
Yeah.
I think that has the greatest impact on your pocketbook. That has the greatest impact on the life choices you get to make, your consumption choices you get to make, your quality of life.
Yeah.
I think that has the greatest impact in people's day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
And so for me, that is an issue I'm passionate about, is how do we work on it? How do we improve those day-to-day life issues? And for me, it's converting over from a property tax model to a consumption-based model.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we saw some of our elected officials try to fight for it last session. And I look forward to being another person in that camp that's going to be right there beside them, pounding away, educating, informing people, and pushing back for those people that want to say, well, it's going to impact the poor. I'm going to be there saying Bravo Sierra, because it's not.
Yeah.
We're going to help those people that are poor, that maybe they paid off their house. Maybe their grandmother paid off their house. She's handing it down. Now her kids don't have to be homeless because they were taxed out of their house.
Yeah.
Or relocate somewhere else. We're not going to have to deal with people that are so poor if they're on welfare. Guess what? They're already on welfare. They're not paying taxes anyways on stuff. But if they want to buy a 50-inch television, sorry, they're going to pay taxes on that.
Yeah.
If you have the extra money for a 50-inch TV, that's not a necessity to life. Yeah, you're going to pay a tax on that.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my view on that. Is I think it's very much a fallacy. I think it's misleading, and it's bad policy to say that it's going to impact the poor in a negative way. If you're that poor already, you're not paying taxes on stuff, and you're not paying for half the goods anyway. So I think that's a fallacy. Now, after talking about your middle class, which I'm a part of, I can tell you right now, as a middle class person, I'm harmed more by a property tax model financially than I would if I got to work off my budget and pick and choose where I want to go.
Yeah.
Because you know what's going to happen? I'm going to have more money in my bank account around Christmas time. Because that's, next year's what? That's when we pay your taxes the following month. So you're going to have more money on hand for your renters. So people always think it's the homeowners that are affected by this. The renters get affected even more so.
Yeah, they do.
Because when the landlords or the apartment owners, when their property taxes go up, you don't think they don't raise rents?
Yeah, they've got to offset those costs.
I got so tired of my rent going up month to month. I looked at my fiance and I said, we've got to buy a house. If we don't buy now, we're going to get out of our price range. And sure enough, within 6 months, we were outside the price range for the house we're in right now.
Oh, wow.
It just inflated that much. But you know what? When you're paying us almost as much for a mortgage as for your rent, that's a problem.
Yeah. Well, that's man. This was very thorough. I've enjoyed. We covered a lot of issues on the political front on this, but I gotta ask you some fun questions.
Yeah.
We're getting close to Christmas.
Yeah.
What are some Christmas traditions that your family engages in that you really enjoy every year?
So my mom's from England.
Okay.
And so we bring a lot of the British traditions with us. And so we actually have the poppers, and we all wear the crowns at Christmas time.
Okay, yeah.
So we all wear the paper crowns. That's been a tradition we've been doing for forever. And that's always fun is to be able to carry on those cultural traditions that we all have, and for us and our family, it's being able to wear those paper crowns at Christmas time.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite? So we on our weekly roundup podcast, we talked about our favorite Christmas movie last week. Do you have a favorite Christmas movie?
I do. Okay. It's the Christmas Story. Oh yeah, it'll shoot your eye out. I mean, I put that on repeat all day long. Yeah. It's funny because my fiance is not a big fan of that movie.
Neither's my wife. She hates it.
I know.
She's like,
mine does too.
It's back on.
I love it. It's great. Especially the dog steal the turkey off the table. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the dog steal the turkey off the table. It's hilarious. And then the scene at the Chinese restaurant. I mean, it's just great. It's just a great movie. It reminds me of a time of back when we had those good values in America, when we had that respect for the holidays and Christmas time. And I just love that movie.
Yeah. I can't go without seeing Christmas Vacation. Yeah. So that's I don't know. I've seen it 100 times and I laugh at the same spot every time. Doesn't matter what it is. I know what Chevy Chase is about to say and I still just crack up.
I almost just Mike slipped and said that thing, but I almost slipped it. I was like, but I'm not going to.
You're good. We'll say that for after the podcast. Any favorite Christmas songs?
Man, I love Carol of the Bells.
Okay.
Carol of the Bells. Too. It's not really so much song, but I love Carol of the Bells. It's just, I love it.
Yeah. For me, the music is most of what I like about Christmas. Like, Little Drummer Boy, Carol of the Bells is a great one. Mary, Did You Know? All those songs I think are really great. And I'm like, Christmas is Mackenzie's favorite thing. Even Mackenzie's off camera right now. Literally year round Christmas. That's Mackenzie. But for me, as soon as December 1st hits, we've watched Home Alone, Home Alone 2. Like we try to go through our sort of bevy of movies we have to watch every December. I don't know if y'all are the same way, but I have to get them in.
Oh yeah. Well, ours is Family Vacation as well. Yep. Christmas Vacation is one of them. I like to watch The Grinch.
Yep. The Grinch is good.
And I always got to watch a version of the Christmas Carol. And for us, we watch the Muppets. I like the Muppet Christmas Carol version. Yep. It's one of my favorites.
Yep. And do y'all keep music going on in the house and stuff as well?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we do that.
I love to cook, so we always put music on. So when we cook, it's one of my. To me, that's my stress relief. I love cooking. Yeah. So we'll put some music on.
That's awesome. So. All right. Question for you: are you a Star Wars fan?
Yes.
Okay. I am too. Major.
Mandalorian is awesome.
Mandalorian's fantastic. What are your thoughts on The Last Jedi? This is the most difficult question I think anyone could possibly. This divides Star Wars fans.
It's tough, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of getting away from its original premise, but they sold. So I mean, it happens. I was sad to see them kind of get away from some of the stuff, but I think it keeps the story going for the next generation, so it doesn't die out. Okay. So I think for me, as much as I wish it kept to the true roots of it. I'm okay with it going in the direction it is because you know what? It's going to gain new fans and the story's going to continue to keep being told. Yeah. I still can't get over what happened to Luke Skywalker. I'm sorry. I can't. Yeah. Are you excited about this new movie coming out? I am, yes. Yeah. I I don't want to give too much away, but we got some tickets coming up here soon for it. I look forward to seeing it. You know, if you're in Austin, the IMAX of the Bob Bullock does a phenomenal showing of it.
Yep.
I mean, if you're going to watch it, I mean, I'm a big fan of my usual movie area is either the Cinemark over in Bee Cave or Movie House and Eatery. Those are like my two places. Give me the recliner. Give me a cold beer and let me have some good food, and that's how I like to watch my movies. But for certain movies, I'll come into town and I'll go to the IMAX just because it's great to watch it.
Yeah, when we were over in Mueller, my wife and I used to live over there over on Airport Boulevard, and we go to the Alamo Draft House for every movie because you get food and drinks. You're in a recliner. It's like, you can't beat that.
No.
You can't beat that.
I got spoiled now, so I can't undo it.
I'm the same way. I don't know that I could go back to watching movies in any other way now that I've been experienced and exposed to that. And that was something I'd never been exposed to until I moved from DC to Texas. And it was like, dude, you've never seen a movie until you've been to like an Alamo Draft.
Incredible business model, man. I love it. I'm like, why didn't I think of that?
So I got a question for you. Are you a football fan, NFL fan, college football fan? Anything in that?
You know, I hate outing myself like that. I was for
Maybe
a
this
while.
is the most dangerous
I
question.
was for a little while until they started engaging in politics. I'm sorry. I watched athletics to break away from the stress of life, to get away from all that world, and to watch businesses or the entertainment industry dive into politics. Yeah. It's heartbreaking. I mean, it's their right to, their private entity, it's their right to do it. It's just heartbreaking because as the consumer, I want to get away from that. I want to get away from the subliminal message. I want to get away from that. If you want to push that in your off time, then do that on your off time. That's fine. You'll get a platform. You're a superstar. You'll get a platform. But for it to be thrown into the things that hold our country together, that hold our culture together, is in the entertainment industry. And it's sad to watch the entertainment industry. There's movies now that I really struggle to watch. You know, we watched one of the Christmas movies on the Disney Plus yesterday, is that Noel movie.
Oh,
it's a cute movie. I liked it, but there's just certain things I'm like, why did you have to make it political? It was going in such straight direction. I'm just like, why? But I'm a big fan of Anna Kendrick. In her films It's just unfortunate. So same thing with the NFL. I'm glad to see the NFL starting to get back to.
It does seem like they are trying to roll that back.
They are, and you know what? I'm a big believer. Just because someone makes a mistake doesn't mean you're dead to me for life. I'm a big advocate for redemption, and I think we should all be open to people that when they realize they made a mistake and they want to try to make improvements, you shouldn't necessarily still shut them out. Because you know what? Then no one has a motivation to improve. No one has a motivation to get better in their life. And so I really want to encourage people. Same with the NFL. I've opened them back up again. They've seemed to have corrected some of the mistakes they made. And they're focusing back to the entertainment portion of it, which is why I watch it. And so I'm glad to see they're making that transition back to the original values of we're going to be an entertainment country, an entertainment industry, so that way people can take a break from that stress of their life. And let's not add to that stress. Let's keep the entertainment value for what it is, to keep people happy, to keep our country together, and let's not be a part of that divisive rhetoric. And I'm proud to watch the NFL starting to transition back to that. So they all have my support now that they're getting back to that. I think that's a really good point about the cultural importance of all, whether it's movies or sports or whatever. It's like, just entertain folks, bring folks together. We're all Americans. Let's not needlessly divide people into camps, as has been happening. There's enough of that in the political world to do that yourself. If you're looking to be in the divisive stuff, man, hey, we have a presidential election coming up, man. You got to pick your side. You got to have all the, but when you're taking a break from that, let's let our entertainment industry be about entertainment. Let's let it hold our culture together, and let's let it be something that we're all proud to have at the end of the day.
That's awesome. Well, Justin, this has been awesome. It's been a great interview. We've enjoyed having you on.
Well, thank you.
And wish you the best of luck in the primary coming up. So
I appreciate it. Well, thank y'all so much for all y'all do, and it's good to have a news source, a news outlet out there that really focuses on the reality of life. And so thank y'all.
Appreciate it. And to all of y'all, thank you guys for tuning in, and please go to the Texan.news to read our news articles, to read what we're reporting on, and to watch this podcast. And we'll catch y'all next time. Thank you all for listening. If you've been enjoying our podcast, it would be awesome if you would review us on iTunes. And if there's a guest you'd love to hear on our show, give us a shout out on Twitter. Tweet @TheTexanNews. We're proud to have you standing with us as we seek to provide real journalism in an age of disinformation. We're paid for exclusively by readers like you, so it's important we all do our part to support The Texan by subscribing and telling your friends about us. God bless you, and God bless Texas.